What's up YouTube, Capital G here, looking at a very interesting and amazing deck. This is actually PK Heroes, and this was piloted by a gentleman named Aaron Coker. He actually made top 8 at a regional in Mississippi. This was originally on the Card Guys channel. I highly suggest that you guys check out the video. I have it linked and annotated if you want to hear some of the explanations as to why he ran certain cards firsthand, why he didn't run like Burning Abyss, and why he didn't run a traditional version of PK Fire. But like the grand takeaway that I took away from watching the video and just looking at this deck on paper is that kind of Dark Law is still the motherfucking man. Like, that's one of the things that I'm just realizing. Like, you've seen every once in a while people will splash in, you know, like 3 Shadow Mist, like we saw at last format, where people threw it into, like, you know, Draco Pals. Like, okay, I can throw in a couple of Shadow Mist and some mass changes. I can set up my Dark Law with some Solemn Strikes, and I might be able to steal some wins. But even still, a card that came out, which seems like forever ago, it's so ridiculously good. Now, I will say this: if you ask a hero player in their most honest moment, is the Cosmo matchup a problem? They would probably say yes, because Dark Law doesn't have, it's not super good against the Cosmo deck. Unless you can kind of pair it with like a Rafflesia or like a Bottomless, a whole bunch of protection basically, it's not that ridiculously good. But against the rest of the meta, most of like the meta decks only have like a couple of outs in their deck. And the thing is, you know, while they can have those, generally they're not going to be searching those, because if they try and, you know, do some drawing and searching and stuff like that, Dark Law is just like, give me that card, everything's going to the graveyard. And you look at, you know, you look around the meta and you see decks like Monarchs, and Monarchs desperately need their graveyard. I mean, if you activate a Pantheism while Dark Law is on the board, I mean, you might as well just scoop, because Pantheism's not going to hit the grave. You're going to, you know, lose whatever that you discarded. You're going to take a card away because Dark Law is snatching up a card. If you know, Burning Abyss, same kind of deal. Anything that goes to the graveyard, no Dante effects. So, you know, Dark Law is still really good, but I didn't realize how much natural synergy there is for this deck. Now, I get it. Some people are going to look at this and they're going to be like, well, Cap, it was only 3 Shadow Mist. Is this really, you know, considered PK Heroes? But if you watch the video, he actually explained that this is, yes, it has the whole PK engine, and it's a whole lot of rank 3. He's got the Phantom Knights, he's got Terratops, which is largely kind of like part of the rank 3 toolbox, whether you want to run it in Burning Abyss or PK Fire. But he also ran other multiple ways of getting Shadow Mist on the field turn 1, or just being able to special summon it out of his hand if he happened to draw it. Like Marauding Captain was one of the things that jumped out. I was like, whoa there, Marauding Captain. But it actually does make sense. First off, it is level 3, so you can use it with, you know, all your other level 3s for the toolbox of your rank 3s. Second, it's a warrior, so Reinforcement of the Army is going to be staple in pretty much any Phantom Knight deck. So Reinforcement of the Army serves as a way to get to your Marauding Captain and to possibly get the Shadow Mist. And in addition, this does just special Shadow Mist out of your hand so that you can instantly just go into, you know, your turn 1 Dark Law, or you can set it up to try and use it on your opponent if they activate like a card Demise or something like that. And this actually gives him a way to summon other mask heroes, because that's one thing you see people splash in like a hero engine, and like they can't really make anything other than Dark Law. So maybe they lose a couple of their Dark Laws and then they draw like a mass change 2 late in the duel, and it's for the most part essentially dead. But in this deck, he actually has some other plays. Speaking of mass change 2, I think like you kind of saw people experiment with it a little bit with Shadows. I never really liked that idea. I think that it worked better in Burning Abyss, but PKs might be the perfect deck, because just like Burning Abyss, when you discard a PK, this is why you see all these versions that run like 3 Twin Twisters and stuff like that. It's not really that big of a deal. I mean, these dudes will pay for themselves. They will search other cards, but the benefits that you get in running kind of like a hero engine in PKs is you get wings, and wings actually protects your Dark Law. So if your opponent happens to they happen to luck sack you with that, you know, Kaiju Interrupted Slumber. Okay, well, now you can just use wings. You can protect your Dark Law. It won't die. And then Interrupted Slumber won't hit the graveyard. It'll get banished. So, you know, they won't be able to search. And even if they could search, would they really want to? Because, you know, Dark Law is just going to banish a card anyways. So it means, like, if you're playing against Burning Abyss Kaiju, like, they kind of have to have the Kaiju, like, and they have to naturally draw it anyways. So in this deck, not only do you have a good amount of synergy, but then you actually get a good amount of protection. And It's not like, you know, PKs don't run this already. Now, I thought it was interesting that he ran Transmodify and Mass Change too. So essentially, this dude is going to be summoning Dark Law every single, like he said, the point of this deck was pretty much to go first and get Dark Law out every single, you know, turn one, because he's got a whole bunch of dark cards that he can use with Mass Change 2. He can use these same dark monsters with Transmodify and special the Shadow Mist straight from the deck that way. There's even some neat combos in this deck where he said that he would make Levier, which we all know is a very easy, that's a very easy turn one play for this deck. I mean, literally you can just special summon Terratops and you've got your Levier right there after getting this guy right here. But you could actually go into Levier and you could go to Sarcophagus for the Shadow Mist, and then you could just summon out the Shadow Mist from the Levier, and it's like, bam, another Dark Law combo. Now, I think that it does bode well for people looking to splash in heroes or like a small mass hero engine into these type of decks. The fact that Allure Darkness went to 2, in a deck like PK Fire, it's obviously good because you've got your Phantom Knights, they're all dark, and Shadow Mist is dark too, because you're probably not going to run any other shit. Like, you're probably not running any other copies of like heroes or anything like that. Maybe you could argue you could splash in one copy of like a Bubble Man or something like that, but then you'd have to run Acid, and you know, like, you start messing with the consistency of the deck. And the last little bit of synergy is, you guys know when you make Break Sword and you use the effect, or it gets blown up or whatever, you can bring your PKs back as level 4. Well, guess what else is level 4 and a dark monster? So you would be able to exceed into, like, you know, Key Beetle or something like that. I do wish that maybe he had well, I don't know if a Vanity. I would say something that he could kind of protect with the Key Beetle, maybe like a Vanities. I think that probably for like the Cosmo matchup, well, I wouldn't say that this deck has an amazing Cosmo matchup. I think it is really solid against the rest of the meta, and I think that it gives you probably a little more utility against some of the other matchups than just a standard PK hero deck would. And if you happen to run in a Flying Sea, this deck wouldn't have that much of a problem. Like, if you side Flying Sea against a traditional PK Fire, they can kind of be sitting there fucked, because everything that they run in the extra deck is going to be an Exceed. But this deck still has the option of summoning Dark Law. You can use the Flying Sea for the Mass Hero Dion if, you know, they happen to like Flying Sea you, etc, etc. So this is just an interesting deck. Sometimes I try and look for decks that, you know, aren't just like PK Fire and Burning Abyss and just isn't the traditional norm. And I'm just like, man, I want to discuss this because I think it's pretty interesting. And I think that people will enjoy, you know, like explanations and stuff like that. So let me know what you guys thought. Check out the original video because Aaron had some very good explanations as to why he didn't run Burning Abyss and why he didn't run certain cards, and, you know, some more strategies that maybe I didn't get to. Thank you guys for watching as always.